Sad hits. We're getting PV1 levels of regen in this one. Sorry about the video quality. Performance has been really bad this patch. Acolyte of Chayula, who will now be referred to as Chonk, has always been one of the least played ascendancies. One of the few good ascendancy nodes is Into the Breach. This spawns remnants around you in 3 colors that give you different buffs. The node after this lets you specialize in a single color. Usually people take just purple because purple gives damage, and don't look at anything else. But red has caught my eye recently. Red Flame gives you a life leech instance equal to 20% of your maximum life. With the recent leech changes, there is now only 1 leech instance and is capped by damage. But since this is a fixed percentage of life granted by a buff, this ignores that. Also, this leech comes in the form of a remnant, which means it can be scaled by remnant effect as well as leech effect. Also life recovery rate, but that's a pretty rare stat. To set this up, all you need is all the remnant effect nodes on the tree, and a max roll carnage heart for life leech amount, qualified for life. It is the bare minimum to have tons of regen. Optionally, a source for Val Pack is useful. You can get this from passing all the way south, but I wouldn't recommend it. A Flesh Crucible with Val Pact and a manageable downside is the ideal source. And on a budget, you can use the gloves at Zeri's Acuity. They're not actually that bad. Val Pact has been reworked, but for us it enables Persistent Life Leech in exchange for losing half of it. Without Persistent Leech, the regen is spiky. With Max Remnant Collection range, you usually catch them every time they spawn, but not always. Sometimes you have dead spots, or you take a lot of damage in between the remnant spawns. Having Persistent Leech smooths this over. What I'm pretty sure is a bug, but when Val Pact is allocated, every zone you join, you are set to a very low HP amount. This isn't a big issue for us, one Red Flame solves it, but this also happens when you rejoin from a disconnect. Often in the middle of combat and you just die immediately. Now what do we do with all this leech? There's actually 2 ways to take it, by either going life or ES. The unique body armor Kotor of Crimson lets your life leech overflow max life. Overflowing lets it overcap by 50%. With our insane amounts of life leech, this is always overcapped. By using a Kotor and no Val Pact is how I got the 4000 life regen rate in the thumbnail. Note I am using a Val Pact from nothing to get the leech nodes on the south side of the tree. Life does have an issue of not being able to get a big life pool. With the best investment I can do, I capped out with only 2000 life, overcapped to 3k. But also since you're always overcapped, you're also always on full life, which you can enable any of those effects. Life does have the advantage of being able to use the timeless jewel Undying Hate. The Anamanu version gives the keystone Sacrifice of Flesh, which delays 20% of damage taken from hits. With our regen, the delayed damage basically doesn't exist. While writing the script, I found out a few more things. Undying Hate can have nodes that increase life recovery rate, as well as remnant effect. This one is apparently a god jewel that I bought by accident. By playing around, I was able to hit a new record of hideout life recovery rate. Also something I discovered, weapon swapping cleanses your overflowed life, so that's a minus for the life-based build. But you can also snapshot leech instances. I filled my other weapon set with a ton of life runes, and I was able to smuggle over a larger leech instance by swapping back and forth. This only lasts till another red flame is picked up, so it's a minor quirk at best, but something to know about. Alternative, you can go ES. Instead of the body armor, the unique belt Soul Tether lets excess life leech applied to energy shield. This is a cultivatable Val item, with the mod you want being faster life leech. You can save some money here, as the ES degen that you usually want to replace barely affects us. We are easily out regenerating it. With just an ES helmet body, I was able to get 5k energy shield and have it constantly regen. This sounds good, but there's actually a lot of problems. First is that you absolutely need Val Pact. You cannot gain a leech instance if your life is full. So if your ES is falling and your life is full, you will not start regenerating. But also since we regen so fast, any life lost is filled up immediately, often not topping up ES all the way. We can leverage the fact that our weapon sets have different life amounts to force it to restart. But this doesn't work in my build and it's kind of awkward. Another problem is that remember how our regen scales off of max life. Without life investment, our base rate is much lower and we can't do CI. Doing ES with Val Pact, I'm only getting 1600 life per second. Also, there is a small quirk that if your skill costs life, you can't regain ES while attacking, because they have to overflow from life and the constant cost makes the ES regen stuttery. That said, one dodge roll is more than enough to recover a third of my ES pool. So that's the 2 ways to build it, and the way you use is up to you. There are pros and cons to both. Because the ES build needs to take ES nodes on the tree, the health version can get more damage instead. But even with all the cons, I personally prefer the ES version. Having a 6k health pool that regenerates constantly is just hard to pass up. This does not, however, make you immortal. Far from it. There's actually quite a few counters to regen in PoE 2. First of all, there's a map mod that reduces your regeneration rate. Obviously, filter that one out. More threateningly is that there's a few rare modifiers. The red circle that you can't recover above 50% health is the most obvious one, and it's easy to avoid by just moving out of it. The less obvious one is heals allies and suppresses foe recovery. This one has almost no visual effect, and the debuff will hit you with 60% less recovery. You get hit by this one, you just die. If you aren't paying attention, these mods will just sneak up on you and get you killed. But by far the worst is the abyssal mod that drops green puddles on the floor that stops all regeneration. Not to be confused with the other green puddles they drop on the floor that don't restop regeneration. These mods aren't shown anywhere, they aren't even on PoEDB. I don't even know which mod specifically does this. All I know is that some green puddles stop your regen, but one place that has these puddles en masse is the Kulamak boss fight. This build cannot do Kulamak. If you touch the puddles, you just die. Instantly. And there are puddles everywhere. Your only chance is to burst them down in seconds. If you die once, you won't be able to reset it. The arena will be far too covered to do anything. I swear these abyssal mods are some of the worst designed enemy mechanics. So outside of these edge cases, it mostly just works. And the best part about this setup is that you can kind of do whatever you want with it. 4 ascendancy points and a carnage heart is all you need. You can do spells, attacks, anything. You don't even have to leverage the regen into the build, you can just have it as a defensive layer. But for me, the build I wanted to make is Last Lament. Last Lament is a crossbow that has the line, sacrifice 300 life to not spend your last bolt. So as long as you can afford the health cost, you have infinite ammo. This is particularly good with the crossbow bolts that only have 1 ammo. This crossbow was quite popular a few leagues ago, when liches could cheese around the cost. In fact, I think this is the only build I know of that just tanks the cost as intended instead of trying to cheese around it. Last Lament also has its own skill, Requiem. This is a bolt skill on a cooldown that just does a ton of damage and our main single target skill. It is very strong, but when it's on cooldown we don't have anything else to replace it. This is mostly an issue with multi-phase boss fights. It's pretty important in this situation to cancel it early so you can get the cooldown started while the phase transition happens. But no matter what we do, there's going to be some downtime. For clear, I went with Galvanic Shards, a okay shotgun-like ability. The damage really isn't that great, but it does its job. Permafrost bolts also had potential from some testing, but I went with Galvanic Shards. With this setup, we have decent clear while constantly shooting. We can pop Requiem to do burst damage when needed, but to complete the rest of the puzzle we need to talk about Chonk. Chonk got a new secret node this patch, Acolyte of Chayula. To unlock this, you just need to finish the Breach quest line. Doing it on another character does work. After the quest, just talk to Chayula on the Chonk and you have it unlocked. Acolyte of Chayula is a glory skill. Glory is gained by doing chaos hits or damage over time. Any amount works, it just has to be some source of chaos. Once used, you gain a buff for more physical and chaos damage, as well as occasionally spawning tornadoes that apply Wither. Something to note, this skill requires a martial weapon. The trigger is also attack damage, specifically attack damage, not to melee damage. This will not trigger Mjolnir, that was my original plan, but it will apply on hit effects of the weapon set it's equipped in. With Archon restricted only to my second weapon set, and with Splinter of Laurada's spear in my offhand, all hits from the tornado poison, and that can stack indefinitely, at least in theory. At one point it was stacking to 30, then after some patch it capped to 10. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's high enough for what we're using it for. The support gem, Arcully's Lust, gives 8% more damage per poison on enemy up to 40. The tornadoes can cap this easily. We only get 1 copy, but that's a lot of damage for a Requiem. I'm using the tornadoes for full utility, applying poison, armor breakthrough poison, as well as wither and call. Now here's the annoying part. Acolyte of Chayula is obviously an Archon skill, and Archon skills have a lockout period. That is, unless you anoint the new hidden node Dominion. Dominion removes lockout time for some loss of buff effect, but it's absolutely worth it. If you can afford it. The instill cost is stupidly expensive. It cost 15 divines when I did it, and I expect it to go up over time. With all the investment into chaos damage, I use original Sin Ring to convert all of my elemental to chaos. We're doing mostly chaos damage with a bit of physical left over, so investing into generic attack damage isn't a bad idea. Although I learned while making this, Chaos attacks don't really have that many good support gems. Elemental and Physical have tons, but Chaos not that much. So we need more damage layers, and one good one is Rage. Because we regenerate so much, we can self-sustain Berserk with no issues. And since we have a Spear in the offhand, we can use the skill Spear Field as a utility generator. This skill gains us Rage on hit, helps build Glory, and some Wither stacks. Vow Pact makes our life last do nothing, so Blood of the Warrior can be used to upkeep Rage instead. As for Spirit skills, Mirage Archer works really well with Last Lament. The clones also ignore reloads, but don't have to pay the cost. I put Siege Cascade in mine and it just clears. It also clears my frame rate. Every big lag spike you see is Siege Cascade hitting everything on the screen. Honestly, this Mirage Archer tech alone might be its own build. Like, just ignore using skills yourself and spam out Mirage Archers to do it for you. Since we only have a ranged weapon on one set, Mirage Archer is disabled for the Spear set, but that means we can use War Banner instead. War Banner will gain glory from any skill used in the Spear set, both Spear Field and the Tornadoes, and it should stack up instantly. It's a little awkward in that you can only place it with the Spear out, but you get used to it of just using it after Spear Field. The banner persists on the ground even when you swap sets off. Speaking of glory, there's a few really strong glory nodes that's worthwhile to get with a Megalo. Mine has Thrill of the Fight, a permanent 60% damage increase for our setup, as well as came with a 35% with an ally, and Mirage Archer is an ally. That worked out, I didn't even plan for that. Another good one is Craving Slaughter that gives 15% max rage when you use glory. Shop around for something good, there's a lot of good glory skills. So with all said and done, here's the damage rotation. Spam down some Spear Fields ahead of the boss to gain rage and glory. Drop the banner, pop Archon. Use a flask for rage. Wait for poison and wither stacks and pop Requiem and then unload. Whatever in front of you is just gone. So after all that, how is it to play? The gameplay is a lot of buff upkeep. You need to manage rage, the banners, the Archon, tap the life flask, roll from Mirage Archer, check for poison and wither stacks. You also have to pay attention to the enemy mods to make sure they don't brick your regen. It's very involved for not that much reward. The clear is okay, but crossbow bolts have the problem in that they need to be aimed. It's not a one-shot the screen kind of build, more of that general direction dies at a moderate pace. Single target is very good, but that's just Requiem. This can be done on any build by just having Requiem on a weapon swap. For some reason, this build struggles really hard with rogue exiles. My starter build, a Whirling Assault Holoform Martial Artist, destroyed exiles. Their health bar would pop up and they would die off screen in seconds. But for some reason on this build, each exile is an ordeal. I have a suspicion as to why, and I think it's a hitbox issue, as you need very precise aim to do damage. Also, the exile AI seems designed to ignore crossbow bolts. Some of them try to constantly break line of sight. Some spam dodge rolls when I use Requiem. If a shield guy is there, he just holds up shields and tanks them all. I'm pretty sure chaos damage doesn't stun much because his guard never breaks. Not being able to respec my Atlas tree has come to bite me. So how would I rate this? Like a 7.5 out of 10? Like, it's good, it shreds bosses and has infinite regen, but something's lacking. The clear is lackluster and I suspect it has to do with poor chaos scaling for attacks. It's very involved. I don't hate builds with a lot of buttons, but it's not chill or comfy at all. You have a rotation and you have to pay attention. I do think Red Chonk is a 9 out of 10 though. Insanely good regeneration for not that much investment. I barely scratched the surface here. I can see builds with Wrath Pith working, or even strength stacking. I still didn't even touch the Mana Leech Blue Flames, that could work with a Mana Stacker as well. Although there is less investment for Mana Leech in the tree, I just think Chonk is underappreciated across the board. As long as you don't take Darkness, that still sucks. And that's about all for this one. I quite like this patch, although there is a ton of bugs. Also, I think it takes way too long to get all the Atlas points. It looked like the challenges were going to be free this league, but seeing as get all the Atlas points is one of them, I might not even get the helmet.